The door was banged loudly. Kösem Sultan rushed to it. "Have they come?" she inquired. Then the door broke down and a dozen palace guards rushed inside. One of them responded, "Yes, my Sultan, of course they have," said he, while holding a bowstring. Before we get to the video, please subscribe to my channel. It gives me the motivation to keep making these videos. Thank you. Seven-year-old Mehmet, fourth of his name, was thrown shortly after his father Ibrahim's execution. And Kösem was once again assuming the position of Queen Regent for the third time for her grandson. By doing this, she was also casting 21-year-old Turhan aside, who should have been the Queen Regent per Ottoman laws as the mother of the Sultan. But she was too young to rule, Kösem decided, and state affairs were more problematic than ever. Once again, Kösem had to deal with the janissaries. A new sultan was crowned, so they had to be paid their bonus. Yet, once again, the empire did not have enough money. Kösem had paid the janissaries with the gold and silver plates of the palace before, but now they were gone. She once again found a way out though. Kösem ordered the money to be seized from an extremely wealthy religious cleric, and the janissary were paid with that coin. Meanwhile, the new Grand Vizier, Mehmet Pasha, was ordered to start looking for ways to reduce expenses. He could not touch the janissaries, as the only reason he was not beheaded by late Sultan Ibrahim was their support. Also, Kösem was clear that they were not to be touched. Thus, he turned on the other military branches. Traditionally, there were two military branches in Constantinople. Janissaries, who were of European origin, were infantry and gunners. The second branch were the Sipahis, the heavy cavalry. In the past, these two forces were used to balance each other. When janissaries were being uncooperative, the sultans used Sipahis to suppress them. However, over time, guns became much more advanced and janissaries became more important for the empire to win the wars. By 1648, when our story is set, janissaries were much more powerful, numerous, and influential than their mounted counterparts. That's why Mehmet Pasha, without much regard, decided to cut the wages of the Sipahis. This, however, did little to endear him to the Sipahis. They were already not supportive of the new regime. They had not supported the janissary coup and announced support for late Sultan Ibrahim, who was killed shortly after by the janissaries. And now their wages were being cut. Upon this, the cavalry took it to the streets. They started to gather in Hagia Sophia Square en masse. When Mehmet Pasha got word of it, he ordered their execution. This further agitated the Sipahis, and they besieged the palace. They sent a messenger to Kösem and demanded Mehmet Pasha's head. Kösem, however, did not wish to lose a valuable asset like Mehmet Pasha, so she instead dismissed him from his position. However, Mehmet Pasha was a sly fox himself. He wrote to the janissaries asking for their support. The janissaries quickly mobilized and marched on Hagia Sophia Square, where the Sipahis had gathered. A battle started between the two. Sipahis first attacked the janissaries. However, janissaries were more experienced fighters on foot. They quickly brushed off the attack and absolutely butchered the Sipahis. Hagia Sophia Square was filled with bodies when they were done. Sipahis were broken for good, and from now on, they would not play a major role in the Ottoman politics. Mehmet Pasha, having suppressed the rebellion, found himself in a much more secure position. His main opposition was broken, and the janissaries were with him. Why follow a woman, he asked himself. Mehmet Pasha, trusting his power, quickly started plotting with the janissaries against Kösem, but all his machinations were based on delusions. Janissaries had supported him because of Kösem, and he got his position thanks to her. Without Kösem, he was nothing. Janissary Grand Commander Murad quickly informed Kösem about Mehmet Pasha's schemes. Kösem exiled the Pasha first, then had him executed. Murad was given Mehmet's position and made the Grand Vizier afterwards for his loyalty. Little did Kösem know, she was creating a monster with her own hands. Murad Pasha's prime ministry was nothing but a janissary dictatorship. Janissaries soon started deciding everything in the empire, and they were not afraid to threaten the ministers when they needed to. All appointments and budgetary decisions had to be approved by the barracks, and of course, only way to get approvals were through bribery. Janissary commanders got rich very quickly. They also started showing the number of the janissaries 3 times as much and pocketed the extra money. But what was Kösem doing while janissaries terrorized the state? Well, she was getting old. By this time, she had been in power for more than 30 years, and she was 61. She was also busy with another rivalry. Sultan Mehmet was Kösem's grandson, not son. So legally, Turhan should have been the queen regent. This turned into a bitter rivalry between Turhan and Kösem, as Turhan desired her rightful position. Gone were the days when Kösem had a mother-like love for Turhan. Now it was a Game of Thrones. The young queen had gained the support of the eunuchs and palace guards, as well as the bureaucrats. Meanwhile, Kösem had the support of janissaries. This was the reason she could not move against the janissaries, because their support was the only thing that protected her from Turhan. The empire was being pillaged by the janissaries, but so be it. She had to stay in power. It did not continue like this, as it could not have. Corruption and extreme expenses caused by the janissaries culminated in a financial crisis. It was so severe that even the janissaries could not find a way to steal more money. At first, they contemplated cutting all payments to bureaucrats, except for themselves. However, this was discarded quickly, as it made no sense. So, they decided to increase the taxes. This caused a mass outrage among business owners and common folk in Constantinople. They gathered in Hagia Sophia Square and marched on the palace, demanding to see the Sultan. To solve the problem, Kösem agreed to absolve the new taxes. However, the rioters wanted more. They wanted the heads of the janissary commanders who were responsible for the financial crisis. But Kösem had enough. She sent janissaries to disperse the crowd, and that was it for the moment. This revolt caused pressure on the palace to change the Grand Vizier. With the public pressure, Siawish Pasha, a supporter of Turhan Sultan, managed to get the position. Neither Kösem or janissaries liked this. Siawish Pasha was called for a meeting at the barracks by the janissaries shortly after his promotion. The janissaries threatened the Grand Vizier, then demanded him to increase the janissary numbers by 10,000 to test him. Janissaries were, however, rejected, as the new Grand Vizier had no intention of making the janissaries even more numerous. Janissaries did not like that. They did not like it at all. Thus, once again, started planning a coup. The main problem was Turhan Sultan, they decided. Young queen and her palace eunuchs were influencing Sultan Mehmet way too much. They had to be cleaned. Kösem decided that getting rid of Turhan and her men wasn't enough. Young Mehmet had to be dethroned as well. After all, they could not kill his mother and expect him to obey them. Instead, Kösem wanted to throne another prince with a more obedient mother. She had enough of Turhan's disobedience. That night, they agreed to kill all palace servants, guards, eunuchs, and Turhan Sultan, and to dethrone Sultan Mehmet. September 2nd, 1651. Janissaries mobilized in their barracks. All the clergy were called to the barracks as well, and an ultimatum was sent to the palace. They were demanding the heads of the palace guards and eunuchs, all Turhan supporters. If their demands were not met, they threatened to assault the palace and slaughter everyone. Kösem and the janissaries were not expecting the palace to accept this ultimatum, and this was the point. According to the plan, Kösem's men would open the palace gates at night and let janissaries inside, who would continue to slaughter everyone. The next day, Prince Süleyman, another grandson of Kösem, would be throned. And what of Mehmet? Kösem had ordered her grandson to be poisoned. As this happened, the Grand Vizier would be called for a meeting at the barracks, where he would be assassinated. There was nothing that could stop them. At night, Kösem rushed to the doors as she heard noises. She shouted, "Have they come?" But she did not find janissaries in front of her, as she had hoped. Chief Eunuch and palace guards rushed to her chambers. Chief Eunuch replied with a bowstring in his hand, "Yes, my Sultan, of course they have." How did that happen? She asked herself. How did that happen? As Kösem and janissaries schemed, they did not know they had an imposter with them. One of Kösem's maids was actually working for Turhan Sultan, and she informed the young queen about the plan. So Turhan came up with a plan of her own. All palace guards, eunuchs, servants, cooks were quickly armed. Turhan also sent a messenger to the Grand Vizier, warning him not to go to the barracks that night. Chief Eunuch and Turhan's other men went to Kösem's chambers. She still had supporters inside. Black Harem guards at her chamber were killed by Turhan's men. Kösem, hearing the noises, came out. She still thought that it was the janissaries. However, she was in for a big surprise. When she saw the chief eunuch and palace guards, she tried to flee. Chief eunuch called the 60-year-old grandmother Sultan. He beat Kösem until she was unconscious, broke her hands, then strangled her with a bowstring. This was the end of great Kösem Sultan. She had become a woman poisoned with power. She had transformed from being the savior of the empire to an old, lonely woman who had killed her son and was planning to kill her daughter-in-law and grandson. So she died, lonely, broken, humiliated. After killing Kösem, Turhan proceeded to execute all of Kösem's supporters in the palace, maids, concubines, guards. Then she got rid of janissary leaders who have been plotting with Kösem for years. Turhan Sultan did her duty as the queen regent until her son grew up. Then she backed down, leaving the state affairs to the ministers. Thus with Turhan ended the Sultanate of women in the Ottoman Empire. Thank you for watching this video. This is the end of our series about Kösem. Please subscribe if you like my content and leave a like.